All right, so to finish up the UVs for the entire body, I'm just going to come into my side view, or front view, sorry, and delete that right side or left side when you're facing him. So I kind of under select some of these things to begin with because I have a little bit of overlapping geometry here. It's good to check in your 3D view to make sure you have everything you want selected, which in this case I don't. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit delete anyway, and then I can come in here and kind of delete those remaining faces of overlapping geometry that's gone kind of crazy on me. Might be a good idea also to just like hit double click that edge loop, or double click this edge loop in the center here. Make sure that's the one in the center. Actually, you know, a really easy way to do this. Let me back up a little bit. We can use our texture editor. So what we can do is just double click that center edge there and cut. So polygon, cut UV scene. And then in our 3D view, we can go to UV mode and just kind of select some of those guys. UV. And we can say to shell, and then we can just move all of those guys off. We can control right click to face and delete. So that will delete exactly half of our model, with the exception of that little nose part that we didn't happen to select. So that deleted exactly half of my model. So now what I can do is just do our duplicate special, edit, duplicate special. And basically what I'm seeing here is if I click on different ones, they have the exact same UVs, even though this is a mirror image. So what I can do now is I'll select this left one here and grab all of those UVs and just move those to the side. So now, oh, because it's an instance. So let me back up here a little bit. It causes a problem when you do this with an instance. So because the instance is always going to have the same UV. So let's do this as a copy. So let's just go to duplicate special and do this as a copy instead of an instance. And now if I grab my UVs, move them over, you'll see, depending on which one I click, our UVs are in a different position. Now because when we duplicated special, we duplicated with a negative X scale. So it appears like our normals are in the right direction, but they're actually not. And that's why this is showing up as blue instead of red, which it should be red because it should be the opposite of that, not the same of that. So I'm going to grab that side and go to mesh display, normals, reverse. So now they're showing up as red. So now I want to select those guys and do a flip them in that direction. So now it should be easy enough to grab both of those guys, hit spacebar, mesh, combine, and I want to grab those center UVs or those center vertices. Again, I should be able to eyeball this at those at this point because those are on the same sort of level, and we can do a merge, edit mesh, merge, as long as our threshold is low enough, it should merge without an issue because they're right on top of each other. Now I can go in here, and it might be a good idea to do, I can go in here and just start deselecting vertices. So let's go to vertex and deselect some of these vertices in my UV view, because I think that would be kind of helpful. Even though they're right on top of each other, sometimes it can cause an issue, and so better safe than sorry. So let's just control deselect all of those that we don't want. So that looks good. Mainly in the face is where the issues are going to be. Face, torso. And I think that works. So then we can do our merge. So edit mesh, merge. And I'm going to jump over to my 3D view and smooth, just so I can kind of check and make sure. Looks like it didn't quite merge up. So let's grab those guys and scale them in till they won't scale in anymore. Leads me to believe that something may be amiss. Yep. So you have to be really careful about stuff like this. So that guy right there did not get deselected. So that was kind of setting the whole thing off. And make sure it matches up there as well. So yeah, that was kind of setting the whole thing off. So now if I scale in, it shouldn't move. So you got to be careful. Make sure, even I make those mistakes where I don't always select everything that I want to select, or vice versa. I don't unselect everything that I want to unselect. So now if we do an edit mesh, merge, so that looks good with the exception that, our we still have our border edges there. So easy enough. What we can do now is, again, whenever we merge those, our normals got reversed again. So let's go to mesh display, normals conform, and that should flip everything to the right direction. And now we can see that everything looks good. So now we can just go about merging all this stuff together that's in the center. So our head, neck, and torso, we want to merge those together. So what I'm going to do here is we'll start with the neck. So I'll go to edge mode and I'll just select those edges right there. And you'll notice that even though I just selected those, these get selected as well. So basically those edges are still connected. And these are all sewed together anyway, so I don't really care about those. So I'm just going to go to polygons, move in so, and they should move in so up just fine. And then I'll do the same thing for the torso. I think that's the front part of the torso. So polygons, move in so. The back part of the torso, this one might need a little bit of finesse because those two center edges are slightly off. Make sure I don't have that guy selected, because then it'll sew it back to that other, the front part of the torso, which I don't want. Move in so. And then the head, just because I have the ears there where I want and like the nose where I want, I'm going to select that whole thing and move those guys close together. And I can do this just with double click too, but then remember that you have to go in and deselect everything that you don't want at that point. Okay, don't want that. I don't want the under the chin part, and I don't want the mouth. So we'll just go to polygons, move in so. We have our nose that kind of got moved. So we'll move that back. Place there like that. Actually, it's a little closer in. So it doesn't matter too much if it's not exactly lined up. I think that's good enough. So now I have, you know, my arms, my legs are exactly the same. So I didn't have to do those twice. So now I can go about trying to fit these all together. So I think what a good idea to do at this point is to assign a checker material. I mean, you can use this thing if it works for you. It seems like it's not really working for me. So what I'm going to do is I'll assign a new blend. And for color, we will add a checker material. And hit 6 on our keyboard so we can see that. Okay, that's not working. Let me delete my history. I guess my graphics just doesn't want to work. Let's try legacy. Nope, we disappear with legacy. All right, so let me figure out what the issue here is, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I guess the issue I was having was with the file and not with the drivers, graphic drivers. I did update my drivers, but ultimately what I had to do is just select my entire mesh and do a mesh combine and then export it. So I went to File, Export Selection. And this is something, you know, it's just one of those things with Maya where it gets kind of glitchy and things like this happen. So I went to File, Export Selection. You don't want to export all or import an entire scene, because then you'll get all your lights, your cameras, and all that stuff. So I just like to select it and then export selection, and I exported it as an OBJ. If you don't have that option, you just have to go into your settings and preferences, plugin manager, and just find OBJ export and activate that. And then I just imported it into a new blank scene where I can now come in and do a mesh separate everything out. And now if I turn on my checker pattern here, it should work. We actually see that now. So the goal here is to basically get everything about the same size. So you want the squares everywhere to be about the same size. So you see that the ones in the chest are actually a little bit larger than the ones in the arms. And the feet and legs look good. I think it's just the chest needs to be quite a bit bigger, so I can come in here, go to shell, and start increasing that until those are about the same size. And then same for the back too. Let me go ahead and hide. And you're going to have, just because the nature of it, you see how these are smaller than these up here. That's going to happen. That's just the way it's going to kind of stretch out. So you want to get them relatively the same size. And as far as the head and neck go, we want those to be a much higher resolution. So right now they're a much lower resolution. We see that these have very large squares here. So we want these to be not extremely high resolution, not that much higher than everything, but we want it to be quite a bit higher. So I'm going to grab all of those, make sure I have the shell, so control right click to shell, and scale those guys up quite a bit. And I'm doing this because, again, there's going to be a lot more resolution in the head than anywhere else. So maybe something like that will work. And I know this is a lot bigger than everything else, and I can actually probably scale the neck down a little bit, because so maybe something like that. And then I can turn that off. And now once I have everything kind of the scale I want it to be, then I can just grab everything and shrink it down uniformly. And now it's just going to be a matter of getting all that stuff to fit inside of a square. So we can go ahead and grab this. And I'm lagging a little bit. That may be my computer again, but just to be sure, I'm going to delete all by type history, modify freeze transformations. That should be a little bit more responsive now. So again, mainly at this point now, I'm going to try and get everything to fit inside of a square. So we'll start with the head. Kind of moving that stuff out of the way. And again, I like to do it where for the most part I can kind of figure out where everything is. You know, sometimes you may have to, just to get it to fit correctly, you may have to kind of do some things like that. And that's fine. You know, nothing's going to always work out to be perfect the way you want it. But the goal here is to try and get these guys as close together as you can get them. Now, obviously, you don't want to get them too close because then there may be some texture overlapping. But you kind of want to get them as close together as you can. So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting, these are the arms, so I'm putting the arms together. And you know, a body is, as long as you're not doing like a crazy mutant or something with all these different limbs, it's pretty easy to kind of guess where everything is here. You know, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 hands, 2 feet. So it's not going to be super complicated about where everything goes. So we can take the hands and put them over here. As long as they fit. Let's take a I could probably cut off the, could probably get away with cutting off the top of the head and moving that somewhere. That will actually probably help quite a bit, so I might do that. And could actually scale that down a little bit too, since that's the back of the head. Not a lot of detail is going to be back there, so we can come in now and put that. Put that down here maybe. And then I can put a leg there. Maybe flip that around. Put that one there. And then we should have room for the feet. Oops, forgot to go to shell. Put a foot there. Put a foot there. So, and then we can grab the whole thing, scale it up until it fits nicely inside that square. And if it doesn't fit, you know, if it's not a perfect square, sometimes it's okay to just do that and stretch it a little bit. That, you know, as long as you don't get too crazy with that, that should give you just a little bit of extra sort of texture resolution. But that should be about it. There is some, empty space in here. I could go and, I could turn things, like I could probably turn the torso on the side and get things to fit in here a little bit better. But I think for our purposes at this moment, most of our details are going to be in the face anyway. So I think for our purposes, this will be fine. And we can always do like the texture for the eyes in here as well. So whenever I get to the eyes and teeth and things, I have extra space for those guys. But for the most part, we are done UVing the body. So I can come in now and let's go to our outliner and unhide the shirt, pants, and I have all the belt buckles and things that got separated whenever we did that poly separate, so I'm gonna reselect those. And combine them back together. Save. And that's it. So that's our textures for the clothing. We got textures for the clothing. We got texture for the UVs for the body. And next we'll go into texturing. Maybe I'll go into making eyes and teeth. And maybe I'll go into going into Mudbox and sculpting some detail and maybe baking out a normal map or something like that. But we'll see. I do kind of want to clean things up at this point, so I have all this stuff here. So I'm just going to delete my history and let's name some of these. So this is LI. Right eye. Shirt, pants, and body. And I'm going to save that. And we're pretty much all done with the UVs.